Hello and welcome back to the Posit Podcast. I'm Dr. Sam, and with me is Dr. Robert.
Hey guys.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you been? How's you getting ready for the holidays?
I am. I was just like super sick with the flu, so I'm just getting back to being like human.
You sound
Well,
lovely now because I'll tell you about a
thank
week
you.
ago, I was concerned.
It was bad. It was really,
Yeah.
really bad. I got super sick. But you know what? I'm on the mend now. I feel much better.
Yeah, well, you look great. So
Oh, well, thanks. Um, we are going to talk today. I know we had mentioned at the end of the last podcast, we are going to talk about kind of the finances of pets, and like paying for pets and what that takes, what that entails, and how to kind of plan for veterinary medicine.
mhm.
Because I can say, I mean, yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Getting and taking care of a pet is not a cheap endeavor. And I do think that people let the excitement um, of, whether you rescue or you go to a breeder, like we talked about last time,
Mm.
that excitement is like, oh, well, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And it's like, maybe take a step back and in
Yeah.
the time frame say, hey, okay, like what does veterinary care actually look like? Because I think sometimes people are really surprised and they're like, oh my gosh, that's really expensive. It's like, well, but so we're here today to maybe take away any of the mystery of why vet care is the way that it is, why
Yep.
why it costs what it costs, um, and how you can plan for it, especially some of those really like those bigger things that can come up. Like how do you even plan for those things? And that's kind
Yeah.
of your world because that's you some of those big things.
Yeah, no, I think I'm excited for this podcast. I think it's a good place to cover for one, it's part of the reason we started My Balto, and we'll get into the
Yeah.
end of the, obviously the podcast, but more importantly, kind of from beginning to end with your pets. Like when we talked about the last, podcast, adopting a pet or, where you get one from a breeder, how that process starts. And I think the next big step is finding a veterinarian to go to, because honestly, yes, you're going to spend money for your pet on their healthcare.
I'm gonna
And
submit
that's
you should find the veterinarian before you find the pet.
and that's probably the best piece of advice to start off with,
Yeah.
because that's important. You got to find one that's actually, I mean, you guys are so busy these days that
Mhm.
even find a veterinarian that's seeing patients that are new is a challenge.
Yeah.
um
We actually at our practice make it a priority to save spots for new
oh,
clients.
nice. Okay.
Just because of what's happening out there. So like we're one of the few places around in our area that actually will accept pets. And like we've had a lot of people come in some pretty tragic situations, even
Oh,
like where they're like, my vet I've been going to for however long wouldn't see me for this. And it's like, I always try to tell people like, I don't think it's that they wouldn't. I think that
hmm.
there's only so much you can do, and we're just
Oh, yeah.
fortunate that we have a schedule in such a way that like we specifically just keep spots open for our like urgent patients for that day,
Yeah.
so for our own clients, and then we try to save a particular amount of spots each week so that we can get new people in.
And but not every, as as you mentioned, not every clinic does that. So it's really important to have that lined up ahead of time.
Hmm.
So if you have a chance, if you know you're gonna get a dog or cat soon,
Yeah.
try and make sure that's lined up first.
And also don't feel bad calling and saying, hey, I'm thinking of getting a dog, could you give me some idea of like what that cost looks like? I'm
Mhm.
thinking of getting a puppy. So what do their first vaccines look like? What does a spay or a neuter?
Mhm.
So, what is their first year of life, which is a pretty significant chunk of change.
Yep.
What does that look like? And if you look in my area, maybe you'll find that, you know, maybe there's places that charge more, there's places that charge less, but you're going to find like an average,
Mhm.
and then maybe other places it might be a little bit different. Some towns seem to be more expensive than others. And so that's okay. Shop
Yeah.
around. You're allowed to shop around.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Ask the question. I know though there was one time where somebody did do that. Like they called and they were like, and I mean only one time, which is really sad for how long I've been in veterinary medicine. But they did call ahead and say, hey, I'm just trying to figure out if we get a puppy, what's the cost going to be? Like, what's the commitment going to be? How often do we have to bring them? And they asked like all these questions. I had one kid that actually made a PowerPoint presentation for his parents.
That's awesome. Good for him.
That was great. It was great. And his parents are great. And they're really good dog owners and they like really know what they're doing. But yeah,
That's
this
so
kid like
good though.
researched it and made a PowerPoint presentation.
Hey, kudos to that family. Honestly, I
Yeah.
admire that, and honestly, I might steal that from you. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be completely honest. That sounds like a great idea. When I
It
have
was
kids one
so
day.
good.
So
Yeah, exactly. I was really, really impressed. This kid just I loved him. I was just explaining he got this little pug and he's so cute. And like I was explaining like how to clean the folds and like do all this stuff. It was like very cute.
that's
Um
awesome. That's
yeah,
so cute.
so I think make sure you have a veterinarian you're gonna be able to take them to because even like some breeders, like you got to get them there within 3 days.
Yeah, that's very
Um
true. Like just knowing where you can go because it's not easy to get in anymore.
mhm.
It takes time. That's why I've even had people come into the ER say, "Hey, we just can't get into a primary clinic." I'm like, "Hey, we just don't do vaccines. I'm
Yeah.
sorry." Like,
Like we don't even
like
have them. I'm sure you don't even
yeah,
have them, do you?
we have rabies
I was
there
gonna say you have
for like our own
rabies,
pets, but
probably.
like it's such a limited stock. It's not for client use. So yeah, get that stuff lined up ahead of time
Mhm.
because it's not easy. And you want to make sure you're comfortable with your vet too, and hopefully it's close by.
And I will say that too, it is okay if you don't mesh with the first vet that you meet, that's fine. Like you
Yeah.
can actually like shop around. You have every right to do that. I think people should take control of their own health in that way too. Like not
Mhm.
just be like, oh, my doctor doesn't do that or that. Advocate for yourself. Get
Yes.
a doctor that you totally understand and understands you and you guys totally get each other. Same with your veterinarian. If you meet a veterinarian that talks as much as me and you're like, "Whoa, you talk too much," then okay. But if you like that, then hey, come see me because
Mhm.
but and that's
If
okay.
like
You got to
that's like,
find
don't
that
talk too much,
personality.
come see me. So, I'm probably the polar opposite of Sam. I'm like, your dog's not dying. It's time to go home. So,
And I'm like,
so
"Hey, let me teach you how to clean their ears, cut their
yes,
nails, and do every little thing."
I would go to Sam if I was a dog owner or a cat owner, I guess. So,
Thanks. But yeah, I mean, like I think that it's really okay to advocate for yourself in
yes.
that way. And then I think that you really should understand that I think the surprise that people have when they go to a vet clinic, because it is a doctor's office
Mhm.
and you go to your own doctor's office and you don't always pay a bill, right?
Yep.
I mean, some people pay a copay, but a lot of times you walk out, you're not paying a bill.
Mhm.
That is not the case in a veterinary clinic. A veterinary
Oh,
clinic
yeah.
is a private business. It is more like transactional in the way that like we have to be paid for our services or we can't provide them. And
Yep.
not because we don't want to. Believe me, if I could just save every puppy, kitten, dog, cat, whoever for free, I mean, we
We
all love
would.
animals. We wouldn't even we like there's really no question. The fact of the matter is we have to pay to keep lights on. We have to pay to keep a staff that I promise you does not get paid as much as they should.
Oh, if
And
we paid them appropriately, you guys think veterinary prices are bad now?
yeah,
Like, and hopefully, and I hope this is for the technician's sake, because they're such wonderful people. I hope their salaries go up substantially in the next, couple of years. And unfortunately, that will be reflected in the cost of veterinary care, but it's going to get more expensive as time goes on because we need to start compensating these people who are no one for anybody that says veterinarians like you guys are only in it for the money. No veterinarian ever goes into veterinary medicine for the money. That is not where you make money. We have the highest student or debt to income ratio of any profession in the country. It is not worth it for the money. You do it
no,
because you actually like animals and
yeah,
people, hopefully to some extent.
yeah.
But
And science and all of
yeah,
all of it. I mean, it's a fascinating, like very fulfilling, like truthfully, it's a wonderful, wonderful profession, but
yeah,
nobody goes into veterinary medicine
not
to be
one
happy.
person. So if you ever
No.
think that the amount of times I hear that, it just really crushes my soul, and it really hurts your veterinarian when you say those things. I'll be honest, because
Yeah.
they care about your pet so much and
Oh, we
literally care
sweat
about
it
you.
the whole time. I mean, like that's the
Oh,
thing. Like something comes in that's like sick, or if it's something that like I can fix, I can't fix. I mean, I should be able to fix. I mean, I
mhm.
sit there and I rent space in my head all day, like, oh, did I do this? Or did I, while we're seeing the other 18 patients we have to see. Like,
Honestly,
you know what I mean? And so and I mean, we're always trying to learn more. We're always trying to do a better job. And but medicine costs money and we have
mhm.
to so we're expected to stock a pharmacy. We're
Yep.
expected to have a full working lab that gives you real time answers to what's going on in a way that I've never gotten something back that fast. Like
Oh no, like
I go and get my blood drawn and I don't hear for
a week or so,
a
like two
week.
weeks.
I mean, and I'll
Yeah.
sometimes get a letter in the mail. Everything looks good. Nobody calls me. And
Nope.
me, I'm having a conversation about those labs usually that same day, sometimes within an hour
Mhm.
of pulling them,
Yep.
depending on the situation, and or making a phone call at the end of the day, just because it's everything was normal. Your dog went home. We were just doing like,
Yep.
screening, routine blood work or something like that, or rechecking for a UTI or whatever.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we're pulling it. We're doing the work of the lab, running it,
Mhm.
interpreting it, calling, like, I sometimes think people don't really realize that like those things all cost money to be able to do them. And
Mhm.
so that's where the bill comes in.
And we don't
Um,
have insurance to compensate for those things. Like in human medicine, like you said, we have a copay in many cases, or most people have insurance for their health. You're only seeing a very small portion of was a much larger bill
oh yeah.
with
I mean,
insurance.
and a lot of times if you were to actually take like the same thing that you're doing in veterinary medicine and compare it to what the cost would be in human medicine, it's like not even close.
No, not even close. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those things to keep in mind as
Yeah.
you're why we charge the way we do. It's not because we want to charge more money. It's just we have to keep the lights on, and so we can
Yeah.
keep doing our job. That's
And
part of the
pay
process.
yeah. And I think too, like one thing people don't realize is like in order to like go to a place like where Robert works, being a like open all the time. I mean, you guys are 24/7, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah. So that, I mean, that's like double the time. So it's double
yep.
the cost.
And nobody
I
wants to
mean,
work overnight. There's a reason why.
yeah.
Like I don't do it for. I mean, it's. I'd rather get normal hours of sleep. That'd be great. But it's a hazard to your health, as my mom likes to constantly remind me through a series of emails about letters from the New York Times. She's like,
That there's
"This
only like a
job's gonna
certain
kill
amount of
you one
time you should
day."
be doing this for.
I know. She's like, "This job's gonna kill you." I was like, "Thanks, mom." So
No, it is. It's hard on your body to
yeah,
work overnight. And I mean, there's people in human medicine that do it too. Lots of
yeah.
doctors and nurses and stuff like that. And even like they, that is definitely true. I mean, your mom's Mama Perkins is right.
They're always right, but I can't give her the satisfaction. So hopefully she listens to this podcast one day and she'll know that I agree with her, but I won't
Yeah,
tell her in
yeah,
person. So
yeah.
there you go, mom.
I mean, you're young, so like you have some time, but can't be
Starting to
my
catch up
old
on me.
age trying to do it.
but
um,
that brings us to our, as we talk about insurance,
yeah.
I think it's a good segue into that's one option to help prevent a lot of these major bills
Hmm.
on both sides, both on the general practice side and the emergency side.
Yeah.
There's
I
a lot
do
of
try
great
to
plans
tell
out there.
people to get it. So there are certain breeds that I'm like, you have a dachshund, get insurance.
Yes.
They're going to need back surgery at some point in time. I hope that's not
Mm.
true. I hope I'm wrong and you never use it. But like when I went through my neurology rotation, the people who had insurance were just like, yep, great. Let's do an MRI. Let's do
Mm.
surgery. The people who didn't were literally making life and death situations based on $7,000 to $10,000 worth of veterinary
Yeah.
care. And that was back when we were in vet school. So I would imagine it's more now.
Exactly. And I think it takes, by having insurance, it takes the equation of money out of it.
Yeah.
And you can actually focus on what's the best for your pet. And
Yeah.
sometimes the outcome's the same, but at least you get to make the decision based on like what's best for them, not what's unfortunately best for your wallet. Because I used to work in Chicago and I love the people there, but I had people literally saying they were going to skip out and paying their mortgage that month so they could pay their dog's bill. And although super sweet and endearing, and I loved it, I told them no because they had 3 kids in the room with us as well, and like, you need to have a place to live because you have 3
Right.
kids.
Right.
And I love pets, but yeah, kids are important. Like
Yeah. No, I mean you
so,
can't,
yeah.
yeah, that those kinds of decisions. And I think that maybe that's a harder part of this conversation, right?
Mhm.
Where I think there's a lot of people who love animals. They have a huge heart.
Yeah.
So they have a dog or two,
Mhm.
and then they get the third, fourth, or fifth dog. And so then we start to get into conversations of, well, I can't do that. I have 5 dogs. And it's like, but maybe we like should, before we get the fourth or fifth dog, you know,
Mhm.
it's okay to think about the fact of like, well, maybe we shouldn't be like, maybe let's take really good care of the ones that we have.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And not put ourselves in a situation where like we can't. And it's not that like I totally get it because I would have like a farm if I could, but I can't because I know what it takes to take care of those dogs, to take care of those
Mhm.
animals. And I feel like it's my duty to like always be able to do those things as they come up. And I know I couldn't afford to take care properly of that many animals. So I don't.
Exactly. It's not a lack of a big heart. It's just a lack of a big
Yeah.
wallet, and that's just because pets are expensive. Again, it's going to keep going up. That's why people make the joke that you know pets are the new kids and plants are the new pets because it's very expensive to own them.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not going to be one of those people that's going to say like, well, if you don't have money, you shouldn't have a pet. I mean,
No,
I'm not
not at
saying
all.
that at all.
No,
But
just
then you
with
do
it.
have to have some like there has to be like a realistic amount that then you
Yeah.
understand, you know, how do you get that care
Mhm.
if you don't have the money? And the thing is, there are actually a lot of things out there. Like there's like vaccine clinics and stuff like that
Yep.
that you can do to save on some of those things. But you do need to have a relationship with the doctor that can do diagnostics and
Mhm.
can, you know, do a lot of that stuff.
But even for insurance, I'll cover this. Like insurance, there's a lot of options out there. I think it's a great conversation to have with your primary vet as soon as you get a young kitten or a young dog. Like you
Mhm.
mentioned, talk about those diseases that they can get. Is it worth getting insurance for them? Because yeah, labs, for example, they like to eat things. They're foreign body machines. Sometimes
Oh,
they'll,
I'm just waiting for the day that
yeah,
I have to go in and pull a sock out.
yep.
That's
It's very normal. Like I said, dachshunds, every breed has their issues, and some have more of those issues later in life that your veterinarian can discuss with you and say, hey, these are things you might need maybe insurance for later in life. It's a little more expensive at that point in time, but at least you know what to expect. So I think insurance is a great way to, at least if it's affordable, it's a great conversation to have early on with your veterinarian.
And I also think that there's different kinds too. Like
Hmm.
there are different companies. So there are ones that will do like just catastrophic stuff.
Yep.
So like if your dog gets cancer or they get some crazy thing or they need a really, you know, big workup, that's going to
Hmm.
be really, really expensive. Um, they pay like 90% of it, and then you only pay 10%, which is still sometimes a hefty bill, but it's not,
And
you
all of
know,
it.
cost prohibitive. Yeah.
Yes.
And but then like in those cases, like you're still kind of expected to cover the routine stuff like their yearly visit
Yeah, their
and
wellness care.
vaccine, stuff like that.
Yep.
So I
So
think
yeah.
that yeah. And actually some businesses are using that as like a perk.
Hmm. And hopefully my bolt will be joining that soon.
Yeah,
So it's one of the things
exactly.
we're trying to do soon. But yeah, knowing the difference between like a wellness plan, an emergency plan, or the combination of both
Hmm.
is really important.
Yeah.
There's some clinics that offer, and it's just an example of one. Banfield has a wellness plan.
Right.
But one issue I see with a lot of them, a lot of owners, they don't know that, and I know Banfield doctors are very good about saying that it is not a universal plan to other hospitals. But I think we only hear so much sometimes when we talk to anyone. But that plan doesn't apply to other hospitals. And I have a lot of owners coming like, oh, I have this plan through Banfield. It should cover it. And I'm like, unfortunately, it's only through Banfield. It only covers certain things.
Hmm.
So it's really important to know where your plan works, what it covers ahead of time. And a
Yeah.
lot of plans now have great apps for like having it on your phone right away.
Hmm.
So I highly recommend like use technology. We have it with us. I'm not a spokesperson for like FIGO, but it's great. They have an app for it. It's easy to access your stuff, and a lot of other great insurance companies do too. So
Yeah.
just
I
things
mean,
to
I
look
think
into.
everybody now at this point probably has
Oh,
some
most
sort
of
of
them
an app
do.
or
I'm
something like
sure
that.
most of them
Yeah.
do. I just know my parents have FIGO for their pet, and
Yeah.
it's a great idea. Like I said, they all have accessibility is very important.
Yeah. And when we did get Gus, like I looked through and went kind of weighed like, should I get like pet insurance versus do I just put aside money like a
Yeah.
very and so what I decided to do was basically take the money that I would have spent on the pet insurance and I
Mhm.
just kind of have a little fund for Gus. But it's a
Yeah.
little different for me because like most of his things, like if something were to happen, like he were to get a foreign body or something like that, like I can do
Yes.
surgery, you know? So, I mean, like, I don't think it's the exact same conversation as if you are not somebody that can go ahead and just like, oh, he ate all of our kids' candy. So I'm
Yeah.
going to go take him to the clinic and I'm going to do all the work myself. And then you know what I mean?
It's like
So,
a mechanic for a car. They probably don't
yeah.
need to get car insurance as much because they can probably fix everything on their car anyway. So it's a different conversation for them with car insurance, probably in some cases, as opposed
Mhm.
to what we're doing. So
Yeah. So I mean, obviously there's perks to being a veterinarian, but
yeah.
like so but that was definitely a thing for me. Whereas like I know that the amount that I have put aside for him, I did it kind of based on like, well, what are the things that labs do?
Mhm.
Between this age and this age. Okay, so I'm probably gonna do a body surgery on him at some point in time. So like,
Yeah.
okay, I have to, and I still have to pay for it. That's the other thing too. I mean, even if I do everything myself,
Mhm.
I still have to pay like my clinic. I can't like they can't lose money because my dog ate something. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I have to cover the cost of the time, the staff, the drugs, the
Yeah.
place, the everything. So, so even myself doing the work. So it is important that people understand too, like it just can't happen in a vacuum. It just can't be free. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Uh,
And
and
it-
I think that so that's one thing. And then like as he gets older, my plan is for that amount to be larger because the chances of something else happening to him,
more
get
likely.
yeah, more likely, but also those things start to become more expensive.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, you like you think about things like cancer treatments or eventually when he blows a knee, you know what I mean, or something like
Yeah.
that, he'll probably blow two. So I have to be ready to pay for two, you know,
Knee surgeries at some
two knee
point, and
surgery. Exactly.
yeah, but like
You know
it's a
what I
good thing to
mean?
plan for. Like exactly, I think planning what stage of life they're in,
Hmm.
when those things are come up, and having money set aside, whether it's through savings, insurance, just having that plan ahead of time is really important.
Yeah.
And knowing if you do have insurance, they don't cover things up front.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
You
that's
are
true.
required to pay the amount ahead of time. They will reimburse you for it, but you're always required. And I think a lot of owners had a problem with that initially.
Hmm.
They thought insurance would just cover it right away, and that's
Right.
not how the vet. Like as you mentioned in the very beginning, we take costs or payment right up front because we need to.
Hmm.
It's not something
Yeah.
where we can delay payments later.
Right. Right.
So
Oh, and the other thing too, I get a lot too, and I don't know if you do, is also like, well, do you take payments? Like, can we go on a payment plan? And I
actually, I
think
had a
the other
question. Do
thing,
you guys do that at your
no,
hospital?
we don't.
Does
'Cause
anybody?
I don't really think so. I think those days are kind of gone because we can't extend credit to people. You know what I mean?
Good to
Like
know.
we're not set up that way. So
Hmm.
that it takes a lot. It's very hard to kind of continue to have to, so if people will just come in and pay, then I guess that's one thing. But if you're having to keep constantly sending bills to people, that's a whole other thing to have to keep track of. And then you start to get
Yeah.
into like, it's not just one person, it's multiple people. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So you can't extend it to one person and then another. And then how do you know who to extend it to? Like then you have to start running credit checks and things like that. So for us, the way that we do it is we just work with Care Credit because it's like, well,
Mhm.
if Care Credit, it is a very streamlined way. I'm sure you guys have Care Credit. So
Oh yeah, we use CareCredit all the time.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean,
great.
like it is, you'll know within minutes if you're accepted or
Approved.
not. And
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but if they can't extend credit to you, I don't, you know, I'm not really sure how we could verify that we could. And
Yeah,
and
and I
so
think
that's what I tell people.
yeah, and CareCredit's a great option too.
It is.
For those of you who don't know what it is, it's kind of a medical credit card, but veterinary industry uses it quite a bit. It does give you 6 months no interest. I think even some places a little longer, depending on where you're at.
So it depends on where
Um,
you're at and how big your bill
yeah,
is. So some
yeah,
places like it can be up to 18 months.
yeah. And again, it's no interest. So as long as you pay it off ahead of time, like even if you have all the money in the world, I still recommend it for a lot of people because why pay a large bill up front if you don't have to? You can spread out over 18 months. So
Hmm.
so just things to keep in mind. It's a good payment option because that stuff comes up.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, and sometimes people like I like there are places that will do things like discounted or like I had one lady whose dog needed to have something taken off of the side of her face
Mhm.
and she just couldn't do it at our clinic, but she found a
Sure.
place that like actually had some kind, almost like an angel fund kind of a thing, which is like some places will have like a charitable fund. Some of
Yeah.
the vet schools have them. Sometimes, depending on the condition that your pet has, also there's like research going on. So
Mhm.
sometimes you'll be able to get things covered that way. But I wouldn't rely on that. Like that's one of
No.
those things where you can't expect that those things are going to be there for you. I think you're thankful when they are, but
Yes.
ultimately, these are the things that happen. And I do try to explain to people like especially with puppies or rescues or things like that, like you do have to prepare. First of all, you have to know like where your emergency clinic is
Yeah.
too, depending on where you live, it's really accessible or not. But then the other thing too is like the average bill for 24 hours in our area is probably not the same as yours, but I can tell you that people are shocked when I tell them that it's going to be like $2,000 to $3,000. They're like,
Yeah, we might be more similar than you think. It's like maybe Indiana's going up in prices.
no, it just depends on what it's for. But I'm saying like
Yeah,
for
no,
like
of course.
24, 48 hours, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
people are like kind of taken aback by that. Now,
it's a lot.
obviously, if we've done most of a workup, I am really good about sending records and things like that with my people and sending everything ahead, which is
Mm,
another reason why, we're even here right now, is because we want people to have access to their records, and we want to try to save people money as much as we can. And
mhm.
you know what I mean? With my Balto,
Yeah,
but you know, so look
yeah,
into my Balto.
yes, definitely look into my Baltic because that's one of the bigger reasons we here. We want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to save money when they can, and we know repeat diagnostics are very expensive. Blood work is, $100 to $200 every time you do it, and X-rays are 250 to 400.
Yeah,
They're very expensive, especially when
I
you're
know.
doing them on an emergency basis. So that was something I had a hard time with, and obviously the reason why Sam and I are here. So, um, and
Yeah,
just so you guys know a little more about my Balto in just that case, my Balto is not insurance. That's probably one of the big questions we get from a lot of
yeah.
people. It's more just an opportunity to help save money on day-to-day pet care through buying supplies. And we have our vet bill program, which is if you submit your vet bill, we help pay for it. In many cases, depending if you're a free subscriber or on one of our paid plans. So
Hmm.
definitely check it out. If you have a vet appointment coming up, join in soon because honestly, there's no reason not to. Um,
And
help
we're
get some pay.
hoping like as time goes on, the more we can do, you know what I mean? The more
Oh
we
yeah,
can try to make that like a real substantial way to give people back some money into their
yeah.
own
Honestly,
pocket.
because right now we're doing, I think about $250 a week for the paid plans and
Hmm.
$500 a week for $500 a month for the sweepstakes.
Yeah.
So for free plans. So like it's really free money. It's not, it's there
Yeah.
to
There's
help you
really
guys
no
pay your
strings
bills.
attached. Right. Exactly.
You just got to
Yeah.
submit your vet bill. That's really all it is. So
Yeah, exactly.
quite
And
easy.
and it's also a good reminder too, like if you've just been to the vet and you're submitting your vet bill, upload your vet records too, so
Mhm.
that you have them on my Balto in case you need them. And then,
Yep.
eventually hopefully we'll make that even more streamlined as well.
Yeah, it's gonna be a process, but we're excited to hopefully do
Hmm.
that for everyone because Sam and I are both just tired of not having that information and seeing people struggle to get it or waiting
It's
for it. And
true.
you'll see some awesome videos from Sam very shortly about some of the nuances and pain and keisters
Hmm.
that we see every day with waiting for records to come in.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
work. So
It's true. We really want to make vet med as accessible to people as possible. I mean, that's truthfully at the end of the day, what brings us both here is how much like we love what we do. And we really want people to know that veterinarians are just people like we're really love what we do. And like we
yeah,
really want to help pets and we want to make it affordable. There are some parts of it that we can't change. And that was the whole point of this podcast today is like you
yeah,
have to understand that we are running a hospital, we're running a
yeah.
lab, we're running we're expected to do surgery, full dentals, and at the drop of a hat have the ability to help in an emergency situation. Robert, you don't even know what you're going to deal with on a day-to-day basis, but it
Mhm.
comes in and you fix it. And the only way you can be there is, to be able to cover the cost of doing that. And
Yeah.
it can be pretty substantial at times. Um, and so we always just kind of want to give people the idea of like, hey, know those things ahead of time. And if you already
Mhm.
have a pet now and you're struggling, look around for those situations where you can get a break in certain places, so that you can still do all that you can for your pets.
Yeah, and I think a small way to do that, and this is very small, but even medications from veterinary clinics, sometimes you get them cheaper from places like Costco or
Good
any other.
RX.
Yeah, good RX is a great example. There's a lot of other options out there to like check out. So if you want to save a little bit of money, it's a good way to start. And your vets are most of them are pretty good about that. Or write your
Yeah,
prescription.
just ask. Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
do it. Hmm.
So obviously there's a convenient factor of pick it up right where you're at. But if you want it from another place and you want to save some money, well, gas might be the only compensating factor these days. Who knows?
It's
I
true.
think gas is like
Uh-huh.
$6 or $7 now in California. I'm like, I'm gonna start getting a bike, man. Honestly, it might be cheaper. So
It was just 287 the other day when I was driving by.
I'm gonna smack you from across the road. Jesus.
So that's better.
Jeez.
Come
Well,
back to
apparently
the
I'm moving to
Midwest.
Indiana, folks. Sam and I are doing this
Yay.
podcast in the same room from now on because
Woohoo!
That's
You're
right.
going to be in our guest room. That's where I
Yeah,
am
right.
right
Hi,
now.
guys. So that's why I can show off my brother's new place too. This time visiting my family for the week, and he's a Lions fan, so this is not me, I promise.
Yeah, Robert is not a Lions fan.
No, we're Steelers fans in this household, but one day he'll learn, maybe. But actually doing well this year, so I can't talk.
Well, my
That's where
husband's a
I'm-
Lions fan, so that should be behind me.
Yeah, right. Well, tell Paul congratulations. It's a very exciting game today. So
Yes, he'll be very excited.
it was good. So
Well, anyway, thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it. If you ever have any other questions or have any things that are kind of burning desire to ask questions about your own pets or a topic that you want us to cover, hey, we're open to suggestion. Robert, tell them where to send that.
Yep. And you can send them all to podcast@mybalto.com, and we'll be happy to answer them for you.
Absolutely. Well, what are we talking about next time, Robert?
Next, I think we should start with the smush face, honestly.
All
I think
right.
that'd be a good one to talk about because I think it's necessary, and I think you can go on for about 3 podcasts for most of it.
I definitely can. Oh, I can for sure. So
Yeah.
caring for, they're called brachycephalics. So caring for
Yes.
the smushy face dogs that everybody loves on like Instagram and everything else. I will
Yes.
teach you what it takes to take it. So that means pugs, Frenchies, English
English
bulldogs,
You could argue boxers maybe, but
Pekingese,
Oh.
boxers, even some pit bulls.
yeah.
Oh, this
Cool.
is going to be a fun one. So tune in next time. We'll talk about the smushy face dogs and what it takes to take care of them on
I'll
our
tell you
next
how much they
Posit
cost
podcast.
later on.
And no, that'll be part of it. That'll show you,
Yeah.
hey, we talk about everything. We're not going to pull any punches. They're
Yeah.
expensive, even if you get them for free.
Yes. Oh, nothing's for free.
Nothing's ever for free.
Nothing's ever for free. So.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Once again, this is the Posit Podcast. I'm Dr. Sam. This is Dr. Robert. Thanks again for listening.
Later, guys.